All right. All right, good morning, everybody. Again, this is Eduardo Calvo with the El Paso MPO. We're going to get ready now to start the meeting. I believe we do have quorum, so we're going to start. Given that the chair and the vice chair are not present, I think the first thing we need to do is to elect a chair for this meeting.
Move to elect Alderman Miller.
Second.
Permanent alternate.
Do we need a vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations again, Mr. Chair.
What you get for sitting next to the gavel.
Marisol, we don't seem to have a flag. Can you get one on that?
They will get a flag. Way over there.
Well, we can all, can we stand for the flags, please? Pledge allegiance to
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
that would be unique in our experience.
Finally, it's the flag throw.
This meeting has been eventful and we haven't even started. All right, so let's go with a roll call now. Chair Leeser, Vice Chair Cesar Blanco, Representative Chris Canales, Mayor Ramon Cano, Joseph Cervantes, Senator, Representative Rudy Cruz, Mayor Miguel Chacon, Aaron Chavarria.
Here.
Representative Mary Gonzalez, Representative Cassandra Hernandez, Iber Hernandez, Commissioner Ilan Holguin, City Manager Dion Mack. Welcome. Representative Willie Madrid, Chair Miller, Representative Joe Moody, Representative Eddie Morales.
Here on Zoom.
Thank you. Mo Mobed. Mayor Diana Murillo. Representative Claudia Ordaz. Representative Lina Ortega.
Chair.
Norma Palacios. Mayor Javier Perea. Mayor Rachel Quintana. Tony Nevares. Representative Isabel Salcido.
Morning, present.
County Judge Ricardo Samaniego. Ellen Smythe. Mayor Anthony Turner. And Tomas Trevino. All right, so. So we do have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. A couple of things before we get started this morning. Just a brief comment on our mayor. Had a medical issue as he arrived and has been transported. I understand he's going to look for medical attention, so he won't be attending today. But our thoughts are with him as he goes through this issue. Also, I think that's all we know at this time. Can't comment anymore. We also had a presentation from.
Right, so today is a very bittersweet day for the MPO staff. Today is Sonia Perez's last day with MPO. She notified us that family decision to move to Querétaro, Mexico, and so it's been a transition with us. You know, she was working remotely as long as we could without HR getting in trouble with HR and so on. So today we wanted to recognize Sonia, and we have a little plaque. Marisol, if you have that. And I'm going to put Sonia on the spot and ask her to.
I didn't prepare a speech. Sorry.
All right, so we're presenting Sonia with this plaque. and it reads, El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization recognizes and honors Sonia Perez for 24 years of dedicated and focused services to improve transportation in the El Paso Borderplex region. MPO staff and partner agencies sincerely appreciate your dedication and commitment through your distinguished career. Here's one.
Yes, very quickly because I didn't really prepare the speech. I want to thank everyone that I worked with throughout these years. It is really a hard decision, but hopefully the best. Just thank you, everyone. I know this will happen. I don't want to cry. I don't want to. I guess I want to communicate with you all. I'm thankful for the MPO that gave me the opportunity to work all these years, and to everyone to be able to meet and work with you.
So really, on behalf of MPO staff and I guess for all the agencies, that we really thank you, Sonia, and appreciate all the work that you've done. More on the modeling side, and I know that the partner agencies are going to miss you a lot because you were the go-to person for the modeling, the scenarios, and stuff like that. But and we wish you the best in the next stage of your life. And thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Marisol, do we have anybody signing up for open comment
Just item 8.
for item 8? Okay.
Okay, if no one signed up for open comment, we will move to item number 1.
All right, item number 1, consider approval of the minutes of the August 23, 2024 TPB meeting.
The minutes before you, is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Okay, item number 2 is consider approval of amendments to the Regional Mobility Strategy RMS 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan MTP, amended RMS 2050 MTP, RMS 2023-2026 Transportation Improvement Program TIP, and RMS 2025-2028 TIP for the following Texas Transit projects. 2, and items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H and I are part of the agenda. We're not going to read all of them individually, but they're part of the agenda and entered into the record as such. So we have Ann Gallante with a short presentation.
Good morning, meeting chair and board members. Ann Gallante, El Paso MPO. If I could get the slides, please. So while we're waiting for those, this item concerns funding that goes to Sun Metro as one of our transit agencies in our region. This is 5307 and 5339 program funds from the FTA. Those both deal with large urban areas. And so each year we have to program in what they are going to do with that money. And so the items on the sub-items under item 2 pertain to their plans with those funds. Most of them are programming, but there are also some amending of existing projects. Next slide, please. All right, so this is some background information that we show whenever we are giving amendments. I'll just go through it briefly on the first one, and we can mercifully skip this slide for the subsequent amendment presentations. So the Transportation Improvement Program is our MPO's 4-year fiscally constrained plan. That means that for every dollar we say we're going to spend, we have to have it locked in where it's coming from, and our books have to balance. So this says that for the 4 years that this fiscally constrained plan covers, this says what projects will be funded and when. So this is abbreviated as the TIP. So if you hear me say TIP, I am referring to this 4-year fiscally constrained program of what we're going to do with the money during that time that we get from FHWA and FTA via TxDOT and NMDOT. So the state transportation improvement program, we have to amend whenever we amend the tip. And that is because both documents must match. So if we do something to one, we have to then do it to the other. So the amendment language has to say that we are amending both. So these particular amendments in item 2 reflect Sun Metro's projects that are programmed with the latest assumptions for 5307 and 5339, those large urban area funds, for fiscal years 2025 through 2029. And this item, the ask right now is for you to approve these proposed amendments. Next slide. This is going to go over what's programmed or what were the proposed amendments. So the specific projects, which are also in the agenda item language and summary sheet, we've got the Sun Metro Paratransit Fleet Replacement Zero Vehicle Emissions Project in 2025. Support Vehicle Bus Rehab Project, also 2025. Transit Enhancement Projects, fiscal year 2024 FTA 5339 program project, and capital maintenance project. So that's 2025. And then these projects, or the next slide, is going to show the projects that are going to span multiple years. And so for this one, we've got the capital maintenance project for years 2026 to 2029, ADA Paratransit Project 2025, bus purchase project with 5307 in 2025, deprogram the planning project in 25, 26, 27, and 28, and deprogram the security equipment phase operating and capital project in 2025 through 2028. So those are them. These are the proposed amendments. There is going to be another set. We do have additional items for these funds coming forward in October when they are ready. Staff's recommendation, which is on the next slide, is to approve the proposed amendment. And TPAC's recommendation is also to approve the proposed amendment.
And just for your information, these two buckets of money are formula grants, meaning we don't apply for it. We can't get more, we don't get less, we get what we get based on the federal formula. So.
But we are more or less getting more than, I mean, these are.
It's about, I think, 17 million.
So we shouldn't say no, in other words.
Oh, no. I wish it was more, yeah.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed?
All right, thank you. Item number 3, consider approval of amendments to the RMS 2050 MTP, amended RMS 2050 MTP, RMS 2023-2026 TIP, and RMS 2025-2028 TIP for the following Texas highway projects. 2, again, items A, B, C, and D are all listed in the agenda and entered into the record as such. And with that, Ann has another brief presentation.
Yes. So all of the amendments in this item concern TxDOT district projects and specifically large programmed projects that we are able to amend and in some cases bring into the TIP years, in some cases program right-of-way phases based on the UTP that was just approved. The UTP is a funding forecast that covers 10 years that the state of Texas adopts annually for transportation funding. And in this, and each year that it's adopted, it does fund certain large projects throughout the state to include some covering our area. And so that is the subject of this amendment. So now that that's been approved, we need to carry forward those changes into our documents. So the first slide. All right, so I'm not going to read again what the TIP is and the STIP is. We just went over that. But the particulars about this set of amendments is that they reflect existing TxDOT projects that are included in the 2025 State of Texas Unified Transportation Program. All of the amendments in this item concern Borderland Expressway, US 54 Kenworthy, and Montana US 62 180 projects, existing projects. So these amendments add PE right-of-way phases for Montana, move construction phases into the tip years for Borderland Express Phase 2 and US 54, and move construction to 2029 for the Montana project. So the specific ask is for this body to approve these textile projects. Next slide. So, or actually last slide. Okay, so this is going to say a little bit about specifically what we are proposing to do and what this body is being asked to approve. So the Borderland Expressway Phase 2 project was previously outside of the 4 years covered by our existing TIP. And anytime we're moving a project from outside the TIP into it or vice versa, that's a formal amendment. And that is the subject of the items that concern Borderland Expressway. We're also programming a right-of-way phase for Phase 2 of the US 62 180 Montana Avenue Expressway and Frontage Roads project. And it had a construction phase in the TIP years. That construction phase is now moving outside of those TIP years. So we're kind of swapping phases within that are covered within the TIP. So we are deprogramming the US 62 Montana Avenue Expressway and Frontage Roads Phase 2 construction project. We're not really deprogramming it, but it is no longer going to be in the TIP, and that is the term for when we take something out of the TIP. It is still in the MTP. It is just not happening within the next 4 years, but its right-of-way phase is. And then amend US 54 to Kenworthy, or to FM 2529, which is Macomb Street. And so that is moving money and I think years. So next slide, please, which is staff's recommendation. Staff's recommendation is approval of these items. This did go to TPAC. TPAC also recommends approval of the items covered under item 3 on the agenda. And this concludes my presentation.
My question, I think, is to Mr. Trevino. So the phase, can you tell me the limits again of phase 2? Montana.
It takes up just east of 375 and goes to Calabosa.
Is there, is this an expansion of Montana?
Yes, it'll be a widening.
Is it going to be similar to the construction on the west side? And so now that we're pushing it out, is that due to the delays that you had in phase 1?
Yeah, it's I gave a presentation a couple months ago about it.
Yeah, I recall that.
So the construction on phase 1, it's going to extend into 2027.
Okay.
So it delays delivering phase 2.
Okay, so I was wanting to make sure that this was all in relation to that one issue. And so now it's going to be pushed out to 2029, the second phase.
For now.
For now.
Yeah, we can always bring it back in. Sooner than
So is
that.
So if you're done with phase 1 at a faster rate, you can start phase 2 sooner. So will this decision impede your ability to start phase 2 sooner?
No, actually, we're going to continue to buy right away and continue to develop the project. So we're going to continue to develop the plan set and continue on right away acquisition. So we'll be ready to go sooner than 29. It's just for now, we're moving it out of the 2.
Okay, yeah, because I think the Upper East Side residents are going to be curious about when they're going to get that part of it.
Yeah, no, it's coming.
And if I could add to what Mr. Trevino just said, in prior months, we came to the board with a proposal to move money around so that we can achieve this. That was a proposal that went into the UTP. So now that the UTP, as Ann mentioned, the UTP was approved by the Texas Transportation Commission in August. Now we're formalizing those amendments. So this is just sort of like, formalizing what we have discussed in the past.
I move to approve.
Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, continuing with item number 4, consider approval of amendments to the RMS 2050 MTP, amended RMS 2050 MTP, RMS 2023-2026 TIP, and RMS 2025-2028 TIP for the following Texas highway projects corresponding to ad hoc committee recommendation for the programming of carryover balances for Category 7 STP, Category 5 CMAC, Category 10 CRP, which is carbon reduction, and Category 9 TASA funds. Again, items A through O are in the agenda and entered as such into the record. There is one change that we want to make.
Yes, we have one floor amendment, which is that for item J, we are keeping all of the money in Category 7 rather than moving the 2 million into Category 10 as stated on the agenda. So in either case, the balance would not have changed. It's just all staying in one place rather than part of it moving.
So what we're asking the board is to delete item J, because we're not asking for any changes here. Delete J, and the rest of the items are open for discussion. And we have Ann with another short presentation on this.
All right, so you may recall last month, we brought forward an item to approve the funding strategy recommended by the ad hoc committee that was convened in order to program funds. The catalyst for this was new money in Category 10 became available to us, which is the carbon reduction program. It has similar eligibility to CMAC and TASA. So as the ad hoc committee began its meetings, and also I should mention that we did have specific guidance in the initial programming of the CRP funds that it would make sense to initially move money from, fund existing projects with CRP rather than introduce new ones. So with that guidance, we convened the committee, realized that as we were programming these Category 10 projects, we were freeing up amounts of money in our existing categories that warranted discussion. And so the ad hoc committee also met as a group to decide what we were going to do with some existing carryover and some freed up monies in the other funding categories. So that strategy was presented to this body last month and was approved. And this is simply the formal amendments that go along with it, because anytime we change what we're doing, it has to then get programmed into the TIP and STIP. So now that we have clearance to proceed, because we have approval of the strategy, this item is simply the formal amendments that are associated with that funding strategy that was approved last month. All right, next slide, please. Okay, yeah, so the specific ask here is simply to approve all of those amendments that are moving funding around in order to essentially advance non-motorized transportation and some new transit projects within our region. Next slide, please. This is an overview that you also saw last month. So over the 4 years covered by the TIP, plus a little bit of carryover when we couldn't spend the Category 10 money yet because the state was still developing its strategy, and we had to make sure that ours aligns with that. We have $19 million in new Category 10 carbon reduction program funds. We had a $6 million carryover in CMAC. About 800,000 left over in Category 9 TASA, which is transportation alternative set aside. That's mostly, sidewalks and such. And then, so a scenario was crafted that impacts 14 projects, which is a pretty healthy number. So this is essentially a breakdown of what we're doing by category. So four projects are getting Category 10 funds that were previously funded by Category 7 local contribution, or are being brought into the TIP years that were outside of them. For Category 5, existing balances that were being funded by local contribution beyond the required 20% match are now going to be funded with our Category 5 carryover balance. Freed up funds from Category 7, which will be the subject of future amendments, we're going to be able to contribute towards 2 fairly significant regional endeavors there. And for category 9, we have 1 new project and 1 existing TAZA project that's getting additional funds. And this is going to accelerate 2 projects within the TIP, and it's going to take 1 existing project within the TIP, and it's going to move it back 1 year to ensure that we hit fiscal constraint. So the next several slides are the items that are in your agenda, and they're arranged by year. So then the 2025 projects, we have 5 of them that are getting impacted, and this body had wanted to hear both about the formal and the administrative amendments. So as we go forward, you're going to see both. Most of these here are formal, but John Hayes is administrative due to the amount that's moving. Again? Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, we need to see the next slide, please. All right, so these are them for 2025. And then if I could get the 2026 ones up. Now, this is going to be tilted towards 2025 and 2026, and we've got fewer projects that we're making amendments to in the last 2 years of the TIP. It is also recommended, because there is going to be a balance at the end of this 4 years in category 10, the TPAC strategy also included in part that we do a project call when we get closer to those years, so that we can fund new carbon reducing projects with the balance of category 10 funds. So in 2026, we've got 6 projects, or actually 5, because one of those, that's the one that's the subject of the floor amendment. And so for there's some of these that are being programmed that concern transit. We've got HERO in there. We've also got the Traffic Management Center removing or basically taking the local contribution and funding it with category 5 instead. And then here's 2027 and 2028 because they fit legibly on one slide. So we do have pedestrian elements of the Sun Valley Gateway project moving to category 10. We have another year of HERO programmed, this time with category 7. It's a mix as we go throughout these years. Okay, we need to advance to 2027. Next slide, please. Okay. Tierra Este is the project that's moving back. It was in 2027, now it's in 2028. More HERO with Cat 7 in 2028, and then another transit route for Horizon City. Yes.
The Tierra Este project is moving to 2028. Is that because of funding constraints or?
Yes. But essentially it's the difference between letting in August and letting in October. So it's not going to be like a large delay. And next slide, please. So staff's recommendation is approval for all of these items as recommended by the ad hoc committee and as part of the approved funding strategy. Next slide, please. TPAC is also recommending approval of the same. And that concludes my presentation.
Can you explain the 2.14 million, why that wasn't moved into category 10? Did we already?
That was part of the strategy running forward, but it did not make it to the approved funding strategy that was approved last month and in going over, the various documents. So there's no proposed change in the amount that's being funded. It's simply where it's coming from, and keeping it there would have thrown the category 10 out of balance for that year. So we needed to.
We would have been over our threshold.
Yes.
Okay.
So we moved there.
I think one thing also to emphasize, I think we discussed it last time, but it was actually discussed this month at TPAC again. Specifically for category 10, right now we are carving pieces of projects that are eligible, right? And that's a good thing because we free up, categories 5 and 7 for other projects, right? But I think the TPAC, and I think we all agree that the intent of category 10, the carbon reduction, is really to find good projects that actually reduce, the carbon footprint. So it's going to be a challenge for all of us to really go out and look for really good projects that meet the objective of the category, not just program it because, it's eligible and we can. So that's going to be on all of us to find good projects that help us with that.
Yes. So as we develop the MTP, as we do that project call that TPAC had included in its recommendation in latter years, then that's good things to keep in mind.
And I'm sorry, I should have provided a follow-up. So since we didn't move the money to category 10, we had money within category 7 to keep it there?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, no.
Okay, if we have a motion, it would be appropriate to exclude item J.
Yes, so I'll make the motion to approve items A through O with the exception of J.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion does carry.
All right, item number 5 is consider approval of amendments to the RMS 2050 MTP, amended RMS 2050 MTP, RMS 2023-2026 TIP, and RMS 2025-2028 TIP for the charging and fueling infrastructure project with $18,750,000 in Category 3 local funds from the US DOT Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grant Program in fiscal year 2025. And again.
Good morning again. If we could get the slides for this item. So this represents a grant award that was won by the city of El Paso in connection with other local partners to include EP Electric to fund charging and fueling stations. I believe it's somewhere around in the neighborhood of 74 throughout the region. In many or most of the US DOT grants, there is a requirement on the side of the grant that the project, when awarded, be programmed into the MPO's document, so into the TIP and STIP. So this represents new money that's coming into our region as a result of a successful grant application and the requirement in that grant to program this project into the MPO's documents. Next slide, please. So specifically, the ask here for you today is to improve adding this grant award to the MPO's documents to reflect this project that came to our region as a result of a successful grant application. Next slide, please. So for this one, very short and sweet. We are recommending the approval, programming of this project into our TIP and STIP documents. And this concludes my very short presentation for this item.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Point over, Mr. Chair. Do we need any action on item J from the previous?
We deleted it from the.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Check.
All right, item number 6, consider approval of the annual update to the El Paso MPO Public Participation Plan. And again.
All right, so this item we've heard about a few times. There was an item on it in the spring as we were beginning our update, which is federal rules require that we update our plan on how we engage with the public every 3 years. It was time to update it, and update it we are doing. You heard about it initially in the spring when we were talking about the proposed changes we wanted to make. You heard about it when the public comment period was beginning. You heard about it again, I believe, when it ended. And so now the action on the table today is to adopt the plan. So we're going to breeze through these slides just because this is going to largely be information that you've seen, I think, at least 4 times. 5 if any of you came to our public meetings, or 5 plus, I suppose. All right, so next slide, please. This is a brief explainer, and it's also in the backup of what a public participation plan is. It's our rules for how we engage with the public, how we comply with the Open Meetings Act, when we need to, when something hits the level of a formal amendment instead of an administrative amendment. And also we have two categories of administrative amendments. One of them is, small changes. The other one is typos. We didn't propose any changes to the typos part. That seemed fine. So we are required to adopt this plan every 3 years. That's why we completed the exercise. Last time was August of 2021, so it's due. Next slide, please. For anyone interested, this is where you can find the existing document, and it's where upon successful vote, I suppose, the new one will be found as well. And then this also provides some details about just what exactly is within the plan. So we have explanation of who we are, federal regs that we have to meet with the plan. There's a little bit about y'all in there. There's the composition of our boards and committees, goals and principles. Those aren't proposed to change. And then we did introduce some changes to our existing adoption and amendment procedures because the existing language was fairly nebulous and it was a little hard to ascertain, especially when it came to not project-related amendments. Like if we were amending in our unified work program a particular task, or if we needed to make a midstream amendment to this document, all of the thresholds were based on like project dollars that were changing. And so it really wasn't a good fit. And so what we've done in this amendment is we haven't actually altered any of the thresholds, but we've explained what they are in a way that's relevant for each type of document. And then I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on these. These are the existing goals and principles. They're proposed to remain the same in this update. First slide was goals. Slide 5 is the principles. Next slide. And then we go through our existing adoption procedures on the next slide. And the only change we made to the existing adoption procedures is we moved them ahead of the amendment procedures because A, that occurs first in time, and B, this is where the explanatory text occurs, and that really needs to proceed when you're making other references to it within the document. So so there's a big copy or a cut and paste change that affects these, but the actual rundown is remaining. Next slide, please. So this is an explainer of our 3 tiers of amendments. Generally, when you see something, that's because it's a primary amendment. That means that it's more substantial. We have certain defined thresholds that that we've now chosen to include in the plan document. Before it was just rules that we knew about. So those are now there for when there's a threshold for when something is proposed to change, like the exact percentage or amount of money that comprises the trigger. And then the other existing elements are largely the same. There's certain things that trip amendments, like if you're changing the limits, if you're changing the scope, if you're, just things like that. Secondary amendments, that's generally speaking, this section's clarified a lot, but it's remaining the same. The thesis statement there is if you're just changing a CSJ, if you're moving years inside of the tip, or if you are moving money that doesn't exceed certain guardrails, it's administrative. We may choose, if it's a significant project or of regional interest, to bring forward an administrative amendment to this body. And we do give you a quarterly report, which actually you get today, for the amendments that we made during the preceding fiscal quarter. And then there's tier 3, which is the fixed typos. If we happen to notice that there's a misspelling, or if there was a period where a comma should be or something like that, that's something that we're simply going to amend. And then the bottom of this is just the documents of the that we produce that are subject to this plan and its requirements. Next slide, please. So this is showing what the existing amendment procedures are. I won't belabor it, but the important point here is that these categories were the only categories that apply to all of the documents regardless of fit. And then also it states what just what our notice requirements are and things like that. Those aren't proposed to change. Next slide, please. So same information and same main point. So this is the area where most of the changes in this plan are occurring. And what the changes are is we're simply introducing new subheaders for each of the documents that describes how that document gets amended. Next slide, please. Public participation section. This had one change. That's it. The one change was we list out the types of social media that we have for the MPO. Apparently between the last adoption and this one, we added Instagram. So the one change to this section is the word Instagram where appropriate. Next slide, please. But this, I mean, this is good stuff. It covers just what our responsibility is and how we need to make sure that we are as publicly accessible as we can be for any change that requires public involvement. So this explains our meetings. No changes proposed. Next slide, please. And again, more info on them. And then, yeah, this isn't proposed to change either. So these are the highlights. This is what we're actually proposing to change. So really, everything comes down to organization and clarifying. We messed with the introduction a little bit because we had some explanatory text ahead of where we listed the federal regulations and then some more behind it. And that didn't make a lot of sense. So we moved it so all of the explainer, just the 5 Ws, that's ahead of the federal regulations that we're required to meet. Like I have stated a few times, we have amended the criteria in tiers 1 and 2 just to make them clear so it's easier to use. And then, yeah, and we've added Instagram. So those are the proposed changes, and a red line version and a clean copy version of the proposed 2024 update to the PPP is included in your text. We have a staff recommendation of approval, and we have a TPAC recommendation of approval. And this concludes my, oh yeah, and so next steps, we're kind of the middle step here. Your approval, then it goes to FHWA and our state DOTs, and just to make sure that we actually followed all those federal regulations in our adoption and that we went through the procedure correctly. So we're going to send it off today, assuming that we get an approval from this body. And now that concludes my presentation. And I will happily entertain any questions.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Ann. That was,
And
glad to do that.
we can bring this item back for the 6th time if you want to hear it again.
Really glad we have Ann.
All right, item number 7, consider adoption of midpoint performance period targets for CMAQ on-road mobile source emissions reductions. And this, and the presenter is Claudia Valles, with a short presentation.
Yeah.
Can we show the presentation?
That's it.
Empiezo. Okay. Good morning, Claudia Valles, a PhD, El Paso MPO. So, next slide. So as we mentioned at the TPB meeting last month, we're at the midpoint of the second performance period. At this point, states and MPO are required to report the actual 2023 performance and progress towards achievement the 2023 targets set for the 2 years ago was in 2022, 2021, and the 4 year target for 2025 may be adjusted based on the 2 additional years of data that we have now. Next. So specifically for the CMAQ relay measure, HWA has established several measures to assess traffic congestion and on the on-road mobile source emission. And depending on the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, the NAAQS status, and other criteria, states, DOTs, and MPOs are required to establish performance targets for these measures and develop plans for achieving targets. So in a little bit, we are going to see the tables. As we remember, pues El Paso MPO area, we have Texas and New Mexico portion, and they have non-attainment different status, depending New Mexico and Texas. For the second period, performance period, the applicable CMAQ measures for MPO and 2 traffic congestion performance, the peak hour excessive delay, the PHET measure, and the percentage of non-SOB travel measure was presented last TPD and approved and was already sent to TxDOT and New Mexico DOT. This month, we are going to be presenting you the CMAQ performance measure, the on-road mobile source emission, to be approved and sent as well for New Mexico DOT and TxDOT. Next. Okay. So as we can see here, the original 2023 target represents the state select target of expect a cumulative 2-year emission reduction from the mid-performance period, the fiscal year 2022 and 2023. It's good to remind these are emission reductions. What means the higher we have the value is more reductions that are because of the CMAQ project that we are having in that years for Texas. So as I previously mentioned, when this was performed, the mid-performance period, we were on an attainment for carbon monoxide, for PM10, and also for ozone. So we have the precursors of ozone, VOC, and NOx in this case. When we present in 2022, we didn't have the case of the ozone. So that was at for this. Right now, we are again on attainment, but in that time, on 2023, I believe, was a non-attainment El Paso County area. So as we see here on green, we have the cumulative emission reduction. So for the first is 2018 and 2019, we are adding the projects on that 2 years. And we can see in the last column, the original target for the 2-year period, the 2023, and we are very close to the cumulative, the actual emission reduction that are in UPACs. These pollutants reductions are loaded by our staff in the UPAC system. And we continue to the graphs. So here we can see more clearly, like on red, we have the carbon monoxide emissions. The trend is, as we can see in the 2023, our target is very close to the actual UPAC's emission reductions. The same with PM10. If we go to the next slide, we can see for VO6 and NOx. As we see, so we are very close. In case of the 4-year period performance, if we go to the next slide for the 4-year. So in case the 2025 targets are proposed to be updated based on the more reliable data available, the 4-year targets are estimated based on the proposed projects on the UPACs and on the TIP. And we are proposing to adopt the targets that are in the orange column. We can see a big increase of emission reductions compared to the original target that we have on yellow. This is because of, in 2022, we didn't have the project, the upgrade of the City of El Paso Traffic Management Center. This project is foreseeing a big reduction in emissions. and is divided in 5 phases, and 2 phases will be in 2024 and 2025. So my emission reductions are going to increase a lot, and based on that, we made some calculation, and using the same methodology, we are proposing that we update these targets. As we can see here in the next slide, in the graphs, we have already, on yellow, we have the target, and like for example, in purple, in the PM10 case, we have what will be the reduction. Sorry. On yellow is the, what my mistake, in yellow is the actual right now, the 4-year target. And the top one that is on purple will be the one we are proposing. And the other dots that we have in 2021, 2022, and 2023, these are the 4-year cumulative emissions. But I already made my calculation, and based on these 2 projects, well, these 3 phases are going to come in 2024 and 2025, we will be passing the new target that we're proposing to you. So it's what we propose to update. And the next slide, also we can see for VOCs and NOx, this will be the new target, the one in the purple dots. The next slide, and also as I mentioned, we also in New Mexico, for the New Mexico portion of the MPO, is non-attainment for PM10 and ozone. And the MPO is the only PM10 and ozone non-attainment area in New Mexico. For that reason, the MPO 2 years and 4-year target will be adopted by New Mexico DOT. Next slide. The methodology used for Texas portion of the MPO doesn't work for New Mexico portion due to the lack of data in UPACs and overlap of data of applicable pollutants from the past CMAQ projects. This is because in case of Texas, our staff is the one that go and plug in the numbers for the project reduction. And in case of New Mexico, is New Mexico DOT, the ones that upload. So we need to be behind them that check that they are loading that. But sometimes the information is not there, so it's not so accurate. Also, we don't have so many projects, unfortunately, for the New Mexico. We constantly make a call of projects, so we encourage you to apply for that. So also, we don't have so many information for that or projects to establish a methodology that can be more feasible. So a benefit ratio analysis was developed using the CMAQ allocation for New Mexico, and we apply the established emissions target of Texas, and I estimate the future emissions target in New Mexico. So as consequent, if we move or we are going to adopt new targets for Texas area, this will affect New Mexico. The good news is that if we updated these ones, we have some projects that are coming. The project of the South Central Regional Transit District, they are coming with 3 projects of the electric bus acquisition. So next slide, if we see that 2-year targets, here, as I mentioned, we have ozone and PM10. We can see the tendency, the cumulative 2-year emission reductions. And then on yellow, we have the original target. We see that we make very good. What was registered in UPACs was higher than the original targets. And next slide, we can see in the graph more clearly. Here we can see the original target on yellow, and in case of PM10 here on purple, the actual emission reductions on the UPAC system. Next slide. The same case for VOC and NOx. Our targets are very below to what is in the UPAC, so we're doing good with the target that we set. Next slide. So the 2025 targets are proposed to be updated, as I mentioned, because we have more reliable data available, and we are changing the Texas targets. We can see in the purple column, these will be the new targets, and in the yellow was the original 4-year targets. And as I mentioned, we already have a project that is in UPAC and TPAC that will be the phase number 1 of the buying of the electrical buses. and we just closed the CIMA call for New Mexico, and they're submitting phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 2 will be in 2024, and phase 3 will be in 2025. So as soon as also this project will be in the UPACs, they're already reflecting our tips, we will see that yes, we are going to achieve these targets that we are proposing right now. And also we encourage that you submit project for New Mexico area, we need more. So next slide. So we see here the PM10, next slide, and VOC and NOx. Next slide. So yes, these are the regional and the 4 major targets. Next slide. Okay. So as conclusion, El Paso MPO staff is proposing to update the midpoint 4-year targets for download mobile source emission. We can see in the first column, the Texas one will be the next one for VOC, NOx, and PM10 and CO. And in case of New Mexico, in the last column, will be for VOC, NOx, and PM10. Any question about the tendency?
Sure.
Yes.
Pardon my ignorance, on the PM10s, can we, is there, do we know what the source of the PM10 is for?
Yes, right now, PM10 usually is like dust that is on the road, but also we have a system. So in case the CMAC, right now for New Mexico, I the one developed for them, the CMAC analysis, but it's a methodology that we have it that give you like, okay, this will be the case. This is the formula. I have to retrieve the information and then I calculate. So it's already set up some formulas and the emissions rates that will be reduction. But the source will be, then when you use the flow and everything, but some pollutants are PM10, VOC, NOx are released from the.
I think you're asking if we know the source of PM10, right? It's a combination of, I mean, PM10 is dust, right? You know, we live in the desert. But there's also a component that's man-made, from emissions from especially diesel engines, also from, rubber, tires and brake, they generate, PM10. But, well, we live in the desert, right? So I think it's going to be we're never going to get out of non-attainment of PM10. But we can certainly, try to, on the man-made emissions of PM10, we can definitely, work on that.
My next question would be, are there any development policies that would help reduce PM10s other than just through transportation?
Pave the roads.
Pave the alley.
Yes.
Just pavement?
Pave the roads.
Okay.
But of course, pavement has also issues with,
Bringing more cars though.
well, or the heat, with
Yeah.
global warming, right? But
Well, and that compounds your drainage issues.
No, but Doñana County right now has the policy that we are not doing any new development without pavement. Because we want to reduce PM10. So it doesn't matter how small or big it is. Even if you split it in a lot, we want the road to be paved.
Another thing is, for example, I know there's a landfill next to one of the monitoring stations. But that one doesn't have any brush or any vegetation on it. So I know, when the wind comes through, it picks up dust and might blow it into that. I mean, is there a policy that we can implement that kind of helps address that?
Well, it places your monitors.
State?
Be a discussion with the state about their location.
yeah, I mean, both for mobile sources but also for point sources. When we talk about emissions, we as an MPO, we are more responsible for mobile sources, right? Cars, trucks, and all that, for all the pollutants, as opposed to point sources, which are, could be refineries, could be, whatever, right? Obviously, we have nothing to do with that. But as far as policies, it's a matter of, talking to the experts and see what what works, right? But I think unfortunately, on PM10 specifically, there's very little we can do, given our climate and where we are.
That's true.
Does vegetation help? I mean, more greenery to help with the reduction?
Yes, and specific more for ozone, because as you know, ozone is created in the presence of heat. Ozone, you can have UVs and NOx, but if you don't have a weather or the temperature is not very high, you don't create ozone. So vegetation is one of the main strategies also for reducing kind of ozone.
So I said this last time you presented, but I'm gonna say it again. There's no penalty if we don't hit this, right? So this is a academic calculation, right? And so the targets that you pick, you've already guaranteed you're gonna hit them. So it's not even a stretch. So my point last time was, why don't we make it a little harder on ourselves and really give it an effort? But then it got approved the way it was presented, which I'm sure.
But we need your help to submit more CMAQ projects.
Are you crazy? Get an A in this class no matter what.
Sounds like a high achiever.
Again, we've had this discussion. This is driven by the federal regs, establishing these performance targets for, in this case, for air quality, and we have the ones for safety and all that. So, yes, we're not penalized yet, right? But the theory or the spirit is that we set the targets and we have to work hard to improve, right? Whether it's safety or air quality or the state of our pavements and or infrastructure and so on. But it's complicated. I mean, it's not that easy, especially with air quality, that there's so many different things that are involved. And I think we talked about it on the safety one. What is a good target on fatalities?
Zero.
Well, I mean, some people would argue, and I don't disagree, that the only target that is reasonable is 0, right? But is that reasonable, achievable quickly? Well, no. But at least so there's a lot of discussions here and even some philosophical questions that we all need to discuss, right? We can establish aspirational targets, and that's fine. But I think the spirit is to try to establish targets and show progress towards those targets. But maybe in this case, we're guaranteeing an A+ on the next test.
Are we in a different form penalized, though, maybe not through this, but PM10, we were non-attainment. That is a form of being penalized. Because whenever we go for amendments, it's not easy because we're in non-attainment. So we have to run the traffic demand models, we have to wait till something large like TxDOT happens so that the smaller communities can be in those amendments. So I think we are penalized to a certain extent.
And that's a good point. So, establishing targets and the whole conformity non-attainment issue, I mean, in this case, they do complement each other, right? So, yeah, I mean, you're right. If we establish more probably more aggressive targets, right? Force us to really, do a better job, right? Similar to what we were discussing earlier with the carbon reduction, find good projects that are really helping us, reduce emissions, right? To get out non-attainment, I don't think anybody, and we've had the discussion with other MPOs as well. I don't think anybody likes the conformity process being a non-attainment. But all MPOs, I think, are, have the same struggles that we are, in setting these targets, and the DOTs for that matter.
And also it's good to mention that for PM10, is already like approved by EPA as SIP. There was the exclusion for El Paso that was proved that we are going to be in an attainment, but it's not because El Paso, it's because of our border city. Was already proved that is.
I wanted to ask about your models. So for CEO, what was the contributing factor to increase that by that much?
The emissions are because the CMAQ analysis, yes, according to what type of project, different projects has different reduction benefit. So in this case, the project that is coming, the Strategic Managed Center, that is having a big reductions on CO.
But I
Because,
thought it was an increase.
yes, increase in emissions reductions. So the project will have a big reduction in emissions right now.
That's what the 1,300.
Yes, is why we
is a
have so
reduction.
many. Yeah.
I thought that was an increase as entire.
No, it's what
Okay.
I mentioned. yes,
Thank you for
it's a reduction.
clarifying that. Now, with the new announcement of commercial traffic being moved from the BOTA,
Mhm.
would that number increase significantly?
Right now, this analysis is specific for that projects, but also MPO develop another type of analysis to model and assess this emission reduction.
Right, because that's going to be a significant amount of
Yeah, we are.
emissions that we should.
So, for that specific question, yeah, we are improving our ITDM, the International Travel Demand Model, which we're using to test all these different scenarios. And that's a totally different thing that we're, in the process of implementing. And, but now we have the ability to test those scenarios, right? So we have our travel demand model in El Paso, we have the travel demand model in Ciudad Juarez, and then we also develop microsimulation for each of the 6 crossings, right? So not only does that gives us information on transportation, like, delay and travel time and all those things, but also on emissions, right? So that specific case, we tested it and we have some preliminary numbers that confirm, what we suspect, right? If you shut down trucks from Bridge of the Americas, yeah, you are going to reduce some emissions in the immediate vicinity. However, those trucks are going to go somewhere else, right? And they're going to travel longer distances, right? So there's more VMT and more emissions. So at the regional level, we are going to see more emissions because now those trucks need to go somewhere else, right? So it's not a net benefit. So, some people would argue that you're just kicking the problem somewhere else, right? But I think it's, with our models now that we're developing, testing different scenarios, we can provide more information, so that all of us can make more informed decisions and try to stay away from the very emotional arguments that, we know. I mean, there's truth to them, right? But I think we're trying to provide more data so that we can make more informed decisions with a little more, quantifiable data.
Thank you for that. I move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. All right. Item number 8, considering authorizing the executive director to submit an application to the U.S. DOT Reconnecting Communities Pilot Grant Program for the I-10 Deck Plaza Design Project.
How about we have public comment on this one?
Yes. Do you want to take comment first?
You want to take it before the item, or? I think it would be appropriate to take it before the item.
Before the item? Okay. All right, Marisol, so who signed up for comment?
Tracy Yellen, she's online.
All right, Ms. Yellen, you're on deck. Oh, no, you're batting now. Is she there?
I don't know if she got disconnected.
Saw her.
All right, well, maybe we can come back to Tracy. Who's the other one that signed up? Joe?
Yes.
All right, we have Joe Goodenrath from the Downtown Management District.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Joe Goodenrath. I'm the Executive Director of the El Paso Downtown Management District. We wouldn't be here today discussing this opportunity if it weren't for the upcoming and very important expansion of I-10. I want to thank the MPO for advocating for those improvements. And I'm hopeful that as TxDOT finalizes the design and begins implementation, the project will minimize impact as much as possible, although we know it will be very impactful. I am here in support of the MPO's Reconnecting Communities grant application. This project, the Deck Plaza, which I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more about, is one of those amazing public projects that is bringing together a variety of public, private, community members, and nonprofit interests. It's exciting to see the support for the deck coming from all sectors for a project that will really benefit the entire region. This is a project that is an investment in our future, and I'm confident will yield benefits for generations to come. So I thank you for hopefully you'll support this grant application, and thank you for considering.
Thank you. Can we go back to Tracy Yellen?
Doesn't seem to be on the call anymore. She
hung up.
I'm sorry?
She hung up.
Okay. All right. Okay, so then let's move on to the discussion. As background, the deck project is a project, a concept that has been talked about for the last couple of years. Now that it's beginning to take shape, as you all know, the city of El Paso, along with the DEC Foundation or the El Paso Health Foundation, are in the process of completing a feasibility study that is finally giving us more data, more information on what the DEC is, right? I think we all understand what the DEC, in principle, what it is, but we still have a lot of questions. Well, what is it? From where to where, and what are you going to put on top, and so that we can start really getting a better idea on costs and roles and responsibilities and so on. So very specifically, the item here before you all is to give us a green light to submit an application for a federal grant to do the design, the final design, the PS&E, the construction documents for the deck. The federal grant, in this case, provides only $5 million of the total, of 50%. Let me backtrack. Well, let's go in order with the bullets. So specifically on the application, the El Paso MPO will be the main applicant, okay? The total grant amount that we're asking for is $10 million for this program. Now, the program only provides, when it comes to construction grants, which is what we're applying for, design for construction falls under that category. They only provide half of it. So if the cost of our project, which is design, is 10 million, then the grant would only provide 5 million, and we need to find the other 5. The program also allows for using other type of federal funding, as long as the federal dollars do not exceed 80% of the total amount. So what you see in that table in colors, and following what we discussed last month as well, we are asking to use $3 million of federal money from the MPO Category 7. So that's the federal portion, right? When we talk about 100% dollars, the 3 million becomes 3.75. So that's really what we're talking about, 3.75. But 80% of that is federal. So if you see the 5 and the 3, that's the federal portion. The remaining $2 million, which is non-federal or the local match, the non-federal match, the proposal is to split it between El Paso County, and the county has already approved the use or pledging $1 million towards a match, and $750,000 would come from the city of El Paso, and there's an item on the agenda for city council on Tuesday to discuss that. So that's, it's not official yet, right? It's not a done deal yet. And $250,000 would come from the DEC Foundation, from the private sector. So that's what we are proposing as part of the grant, the composition of the funding formula. Again, this is just for the design, $10 million. All right. So there's a question as part of this that has also had some discussion, with the county and the city and TxDOT and so on. The question of ownership. For the purposes of this grant, ownership of the facility refers to who's the owner of the facility that is creating that barrier that we're trying to overcome with this project, right? So in this case, the barrier is I-10. So who's the owner of I-10? Well, in this case, it's TxDOT. So as part of the grant, we had conversations with TxDOT, and they already provided, and if you can put it on the screen, they provided a letter which is part of the requirement for the grant, where they, commit to work with the MPO or the applicant, in this case, the MPO, work together to get the project done. This letter, we didn't have it in time for the packet, but we're happy to circulate it if you want. But it basically satisfies the requirements from USDOT, where TxDOT commits to work with the MPO in this case on the design and the eventual construction of it. One thing that is very clear before Tomas makes faces here, what is very clear is that TxDOT is not funding the decks, right? So the TxDOT is not funding the design and will not fund the construction with TxDOT dollars, right? Categories 2, 4, and 12. So that's also another thing that collectively we need to figure out the formula for building this. But one step at a time. What we are doing today is submitting that application for design. Of course, these are national programs. The Reconnecting Communities are very competitive, but we feel pretty good about the chances of being selected for this grant. So with that, open to any questions you may have, thoughts, comments.
So my question was exactly that, because I didn't see the letter in the backup. So if you could share that with all of us, and I don't know if it can go back and be added to the backups, just so for the public's awareness as well.
Sure.
But I don't really see anything that talks about ownership. So I mean, it just says commit to working with the MPO. Is that going to satisfy that ownership requirement?
Yeah, I mean, it is clear that TxDOT is the owner of the facility, right? And the language for the program, for the notice, it says that the owner of the facility, also needs to be sort of like a co-applicant at least, right? Now, the similar applications have been submitted in the Dallas area, in the city of Austin as well. And TxDOT worked with the MPO in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, with NCT-COG, and with the city of Austin. And this letter satisfied the requirement for the purposes of the grant. Now, further research of those other initiatives in Dallas and Austin, the actual implementation, and I think this is relevant information for the discussion on Monday at Commissioners Court. Technically, the deck will still be owned by TxDOT, right? But again, TxDOT openly says, well, we're not in the business of building or well, not building, but paying for decks or maintaining decks or operating decks and so on, right? So in this case, somebody else, the county could be, or the city, or somebody else needs to be not the owner, but the sponsor, right? For practical purposes, whoever that sponsor is acquires all the responsibilities of, building, maintaining, operating, and so on. And they would enter into several agreements, and Raul, you can, correct me if I'm wrong, multiple agreements between TxDOT and whoever that sponsor is, right? Multiple use agreements so that you can do stuff within the TxDOT right of way, because you're still within the TxDOT right of way. Maintenance agreements, advanced funding agreements when it comes to the construction dollars and so on. So all of these agreements really fall into the responsibility of whoever that sponsor is. So, technically, it's not ownership, but it's really, in reality, yeah, you were acquiring all the responsibilities as if you were the owner, right? Is that sort of like accurate, Raul? Tomas?
Yes, you're correct. So those agreements would be in place prior to construction with the responsible party. And we would identify maintenance cycles and everything else that we need to do in order for it to operate safely. So that can be worked out.
And Marisol can send us the letter.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Representative Hernandez?
Just to add some commentary, the city of El Paso in the past has passed resolutions in support of the project. I intend to advocate, and I know there are multiple members of council who are in support of this project. I do believe that the city should, and that'll be a conversation we can have in the future, should support and being one of the sponsors. It could be in tandem with the county, whatever we can do to show a united force that we could support this project, which is going to be beneficial for the entire region. And so that is a direction that I will work with our new city manager, who is her first board meeting. But ultimately, it's going to take the directive of the city council. And so hopefully in the new year, with the new council, this could be a conversation that we address so that we can have some certainty to share with the public.
Yeah, absolutely. So specifically for the application, for this grant application, it is important to show partnerships, right? So that's why, you know, having several partners contributing to the non-federal match, having the city contribute, hopefully on Tuesday, we'll get the green light with the county and the private sector. So our application scores higher if we show partnerships. That's specifically in the, you know, the notice for the grant. So absolutely, yes, you know, the partnerships are very important. Now, for construction and the implementation and so on, you know, projects of this magnitude and of this, you know, benefit and, you know, being such a transformational project really require partnerships, you know. I think we all need to work together and you know, typically the MPOs don't get involved in these type of projects, but NCT COG in Dallas Fort Worth did it, right? And we're happy to be also part of that. But you know, we really need everybody to work together to get this amazing project done.
I've got to add that, yes, it is going to be transformative, and it's something that's been in the works for a long time. And we need to be unified because, as our Mr. Calvo just said, the other communities are competing for this. So it's not a done deal that we're going to get it. But when you're looking at an input of potentially, we're looking at 8 million coming to this community, and it's going to benefit the entire region. It's something that we need to work hard to make sure that we're successful. So it's great that the county, by a huge vote, supported it and is willing to put the money in. And we're hoping that the same will happen with the city on Tuesday. And as the state always wants, there has to be private partnerships or they're not willing to actually kind of step in. And the Texas Commission has been very positive in terms of their support for this, because this has happened in other communities and El Paso is looking forward to having this happen here.
I believe Tracy's on now.
Right.
If we don't have any other further comment from the board. But, Ms. Trujillo?
I'm just curious, what area is it in downtown, like by the stadium or where?
It's
the 5 city blocks?
Yeah, it's the depressed section, roughly between Santa Fe Street and Campbell. I mean, those are the approximate, right? And by the way, let me just mention that as part of the partnership as well, we have Omar Martinez from the city of El Paso, and they are contributing also in putting together the application, given that they submitted a very similar application last year that unfortunately was not successful was selected for funding. But our understanding is that it scored very well, right? So we feel very confident that with this new partnership, we will be able to, well, we feel good about our chances. It's not guaranteed, obviously, these are very competitive programs, but we feel good about that. So thank you to the city of El Paso for that additional help. So with that, Tracy, if you're ready, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to just say thank you for your consideration of this request. These are ambitious projects, and this one in particular is an ambitious project, as everyone knows, and really requires this level of collaboration. I'm very grateful to Eduardo and his team, TxDOT and their team, all of Joaquin working with the city on the phase 1 feasibility has been a really great experience, and the county as well. So I'm very proud of where we are, and we're at this. I don't know if it's the first lap of the 4 laps of a mile, or maybe it's like half a lap of the first lap of 4 laps around a track, but we're gaining momentum, it feels like, and we really appreciate everyone's consideration of this additional request to keep us moving forward. Get on to lap 2. And happy to answer any questions if everyone. I think you all know that we've had public meetings, and there's been a lot of support for moving the project forward.
Okay. Any further comments? Is there a motion?
So move. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Right, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 9. Consider authorizing the executive director to execute an interlocal agreement with the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority, CRMA, to provide $90,000 towards a non-federal match totaling $403,000 of a $2,107,000 federal grant for the development of the El Paso MPO's International Border Crossing Strategic Plan. The El Paso County approved the use of vehicle registration fees as a source of the funding for the $90,000 contribution to the non-federal match. So as background, we brought several items to this board in the past. Specifically, we brought an agreement that at the time we thought was going to be the agreement with El Paso County for the match. As background, the $2.1 million grant is the match isn't that, like the item states, a little bit more than $400,000, and we are splitting the match between 3 partners: El Paso County, the City of El Paso, and New Mexico DOT. So initially, the county said, "Yeah, we'll chip in," but as we were starting negotiations and conversations, the county decided to split their contribution into 2 funding sources: vehicle registration fee, and the other one will come from another fund. So that's why, just for cleanup and for transparency, even though we already got the approval to enter into an agreement for the match, we are bringing this new agreement, which is for $90,000 specifically for the county. I don't know if I explained that clearly, but again, this is just this agreement specifically is part of the match. So it's a little bit of cleanup as well.
Any discussion? Is there a motion? Second. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, thank you. So that concludes the action items. So moving on to item number 10, the quarterly reports. A, MPO administrative amendments report. B, project completion report. C, project readiness report. And D, RMS 2020 projects report. Mr. Chair, I mean, all of these reports are in the backup and they're on the website and so on. We happy to give you a short presentation, or if you all prefer to look at them on your time, we can skip them. If that's a desire of the board, or if anybody wants to hear specifically on these.
The board, is there anything in particular anybody wants to hear? Perhaps we can hold those before.
Great, thank you. All right, then the final item, Executive Director's Report, very briefly. The Board of Trade Advisory Committee meeting that was held in Houston on August 27th, Commissioner Holguin and I attended, along with the other members from El Paso, Rafael Adrete, TTI, John Varela from the Borderplex Alliance, and Roberto Tinajero from the City of El Paso. It was held in Houston, and this one was a little bit different, was very interesting. The focus was really on ports, right? And so discussion on how the ports of Houston, the ports of Corpus Christi, Brownsville, you know, how they impact border trade, right? And it was interesting. I thought, you know, it was very good discussion. And Commissioner Holguín, I don't know if you want to mention anything.
No, it was interesting. I mean, it was about Ford, so it wasn't really relevant to what we're doing here. But it was interesting the way they are trying to focus on different areas and on things we haven't historically focused on. So it was very interesting.
Right. And
the thing that I do like though is that they seem to be getting more and more participation from our partners on the Mexican government side. So that's, I think, very beneficial.
very specifically, it was the first time that we saw a representation from the state of Chihuahua, because the other states typically participate, especially from the state of Nuevo León. These guys from Nuevo León, Monterrey, they're so aggressive, and kudos to them. So we need to continue, you know, pushing for the state of Chihuahua to participate. All right, then item B, TxDOT Planning Conference in Dallas. We attended the TxDOT Planning Conference those days, and it was a good conference, good information, a lot of good networking as well with other MPOs, with other, you know, TxDOT folks, a lot of consultants, and it was good, good conferences, and the happy hours were also really good. All right, then the TEMPO meeting in Arlington followed the planning conference. It was great. Again, meeting with all of our partners, all the MPOs in the state of Texas. Now we will officially have one new MPO for Eagle Pass. So good discussion. There's one thing that we will bring to your attention later on, which is the redistribution of planning funds. Okay, so just like other funds, the planning funds that are provided to the MPOs for operations, the PL 112 from Federal Highway and the FTA 5303, which is what we as an MPO we use to operate for, you know, salaries and rent and stuff like that. With the new MPO coming on board, and also looking at the minimum distributions to the very small MPOs, you know, there was a small committee that did a lot of work, and the initial discussion happened at this TEMPO meeting, and you know, it looks like the impact to us is going to be relatively small. We may get a little bit less money than we typically get, not a lot. It doesn't really impact our you know, cash flow for the next 4 years. But again, you know, it's something that is it hasn't been formalized, it hasn't been decided yet, but we'll keep you updated on that. And then finally, the El Paso MPO Safety Action Plan update. I was going to ask Ann to do this, but I'll do this very quickly. So we kicked off the Safety Action Plan with a stakeholder meeting last week. We had very good participation. It was virtual, but we had close to 100 people signing in. And this is really, I hope that some of you also participated, or people from your staff. So again, remember, the Safety Action Plan is something that we're doing at the regional level for the MPO. It's going to cover everybody within the MPO region. And we're going to be looking at all different, you know, analyzing all the different types of accidents that we have in the region, leading to fatalities and serious injuries and so on, and come up with a list of ideas or concepts for addressing that. Could be projects, could be actual, you know, programs, could be everything. So with that, just to let you know that we are beginning the activity, the big activity on this, and hopefully you'll be able to participate, or your staff participate in this process as well. So happy to answer any questions. That's all I have.
Okay, at the first of the meeting, we were very remiss. It was a little discombobulated, so we were very remiss in not welcoming our newest member, City Manager Mack, to our board. Thank you for being here. But we usually try to do that, and I forgot all about it, so it's all on me. Thank you for that. With that, we posted a little thing on the board that everybody can appreciate, which seems to be very true. So with that, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just leave.
Somebody wants to leave?
Thank you all. Marisol.